Hello, how we doing today, my beautiful builders? Welcome back to another one. I just hope life been treating you well. You know, you eating your food, getting a good food, drinking your water, hitting the gym, trying new things, thanking God, and just really doing all you can in life. Raw action. That's what's gonna keep you happy. Just doing. But today, let's get right into it, right? We have the stages of commitment, okay? And what does this really mean is simply how committed a person can be toward a certain goal or action, right? And I've broken it down into, I guess, 7 different stages, right? And these stages I've gone through myself, and there's stages I've seen within other people. But it's really just as simple as it sounds. There's different stages of being committed toward a certain goal. And we're going to explain it in the archetype of where it refers to the action the person is taking, right? Because we can tell the commitment through the amount of action or the type of action that someone is taking toward these goals. The purpose of the video is not to shame nobody, okay? Right? The purpose of the video is to really just reveal the gauge on how committed you are to your goals, or if you're reviewing someone else, give you a guideline of how to gauge their commitment, okay? And of course, the purpose of the video, again, too, is to help increase that level of commitment. Again, this video, beauty and building, it's not going to be perfect. But again, we'll do the best we can. And this video will probably be remade in the future. But this just goes to show, raw action wins every time. So, what really is commitment? What is the purpose of really commitment? Like, why is really understanding that being committed to something is really important, right? Commitment is what's going to get you through, right? It's kind of like ties in with the purpose, right? So if you are committed to someone, you are committed to something, right? You find purpose in it, right? And you're living in that purpose, right? Now, the less committed you are, the less you're living toward that purpose or something, right? But the more committed you are, the more you're living in the purpose or the goal. I'll keep it as purpose, okay? So it's important that to increase the outcome, or the likelihood of the outcome, or increase the original outcome, that we are the most committed, the most living in the purpose. And it's a very different look versus when you're not living in the purpose versus when you're living truly in the purpose. I'm pretty sure you guys can kind of figure that out. Or I might make another video on that. But right now, we're going to start with stage 1, right? I call this the traveling stage, right? You're necessarily observing without a general purpose, right? You're just kind of seeing things, taking it in, right? And I say this is really a cool stage because you're really consuming really kind of bliss ignorance, right? It's a really cool experience. You don't really know what is going on. You're just living in it, and kind of your reality is reacting to it, right? Your reality is reacting to what you're intaking into the reality. It's a pretty cool thing, right? As it comes down to, seeing something. So like this is, for example, if this doesn't make sense, right? You want to pursue actually a good thing, an entrepreneur, right? An entrepreneur creator, right? And so you kind of see what's out there, right? Typically, you're going to see the lifestyle, you're going to see, the accolades that it comes with and the way people are living, right? You're seeing it, right? And it's blissful. You don't know what it takes, the back end of anything. You don't know anything, right? You just kind of see it, and your reality reacts to it like, oh, wow, this is good. I want that, Or if you react to it like, I don't want that, right? But usually on the typical side, and the side that I'm going to be focused on is, oh, I want that, okay? So, again, scenario, entrepreneur, when they're posting like Lamborghinis, or not even just the cool accolades of something, or just the success of something, right? And you're like, ooh, I want it, right? You don't have no idea at all what it takes on the back end, okay? Now, the danger of this stage, right, is that someone can be fascinated with the idea of something, right? And they can get stuck here. They can get stuck in this idea where it's like, okay, like, oh, I'm going to be doing all this. You get stuck here because you've seen it with your own eyes, right? You haven't really lived it, understood the back ends of anything, right? You just see it and you think, okay, I'm gonna get there one day, right? Without any idea of what it takes to get there. And from there, you can be fascinated with the idea without really knowing the actual background of it. Or worse comes to shove, right? You can be intimidated by the top. And this is for the people that can get turned away from something they truly want doing, but then they kind of just see someone really with 10 years of experience and be intimidated by that, because it's like, okay, what I'm doing right now is nowhere near that, right? For example, say if I see people, take Iman Ghazi for example, right? He makes a lot of these videos that I'm currently making, and his videography, editing is on point. Okay, I know when this video uploaded, it's probably nowhere near that, right? But I can be intimidated by that, be like, nah, since it doesn't look like this, I'm not gonna really do it. I'm gonna turn away from here. I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna turn away from said dream or said goal, right? When not understanding the back end of it, where he has put time and effort and years into this craft. Stage 2, which is, I call it like the architect or designer, right? How does one go from stage 1 to stage 2? Well, my guy, you have to literally just start doing, right? The more you start doing, the more you advance along the footpath. You just have to start doing more to the point where it's like you're starting to put things together in your image, okay? Stage 2, right, when you're the architect, you're doing things with inspirations or visions, right? So you can kind of see and visualize the steps that you're taking for the ultimate goal, right? You can see kind of the bigger picture, or you can see what someone else has done, and you're kind of mimicking or following along in those preconceived steps. And so during this stage, right, what you need to know is that the repetition is going to start to pick up, right? It's not like you remember stage 1, you really just kind of saw what you were doing once, right? If you were thinking of maybe entrepreneurship again, right? Like I said, you saw it once, okay. It's not like this in stage 2, right? Because say you want to start being, right? You want to start doing. That's when you have to do repetitions of the certain things it takes to become said thing. Okay, so say let's switch it up, right? Let's switch it up to football, right? Because I used to play football, and quick little backstory. I started in my high school, right? Sophomore year in the spring, right? And this is not ego saying this, but I got quite better than quite a few people on that team. Quite better than people on that team, right? And it came down to certain things of my commitment, okay? And so this is really, I remember this exact stage exactly, okay? And so I remember my repetition, right? So when you get to this stage, right, your repetition is going to increase as well as the trials and error, right? So you're going to do a lot, you have a lot of trials, and you're going to fail a lot of trials, okay? And so there's one danger with this. Of course, you can get discouraged, turn away, and never believe that you're going to make it, okay? But just continue doing those trials and get those little small wins and victories. It can help you progress to the next stage, stage 3, which we'll get into. But when I was playing football, I remember there were so many times, like, it was just I never got the reps down. Catching the ball was just, it was so bad. I couldn't do it, right? But I stuck through with those trials and followed through with the repetition of doing it. That eventually it got better and it stuck. Here's the danger of stage 2, right? You can get stuck in yourself, or you can be ignorant to what's better, right? So when I was playing football, right, there are some people who, starting off from high school, probably 2 years in, right, they got better at the sport, of course, right? But then they didn't really progress from there. So they really got stuck in themselves where it's like, I'm nice, I can do this, right? Because you're better than, I guess, maybe the general populace, right? You're stuck in yourself. There's no growth there, right? They were ignorant to being better, right? Not knowing that the gap of skill from high school level to college level is a whole different level, right? From in college, everybody's fast, everybody's quick, right? Everybody can have moves, right? But the ignorance still remained, and from there you can get passed up on this stage. And it's not really about being passed up. It's just understanding that you will not grow from this stage if you are ignorant to the better or stuck in yourself, right? Number 2. So I know some people, and this is mainly for an artist, right? Artists or creators, mind you, everyone's attempting to do the same thing, right? And so the problem is is some people can find it mundane when the repetition starts, right? Because now all they do is look like everyone else, right? And when it comes down to putting that pedal to the metal or putting yourself to the test, it's like there's no uniqueness, right? And so that's a danger, right? Not having a uniqueness, right? An artistic touch to whatever you're doing, right? That can kind of clarify this as yours, right? So say you're making videos, right? And your video looks just like everyone else. There's nothing to really clarify it to say, oh, I made this video. You know, you have to have your own certain uniqueness, own certain style to it, own certain, talent that's put into this, right? Otherwise, it becomes mundane, right? The whole thing just becomes mundane because it's just not you. It looks like everyone else, and all of a sudden you don't want it, right? That's like if everyone were to drive around a Ferrari. Would you really still want the car out of all the other cars if everyone drove a Ferrari? See what I'm saying? There's no discipline after the bliss wears off. So, right, when you're more exposed to said thing that you're trying to achieve or goal, I say the funness, the full funness of it can wear off, especially quickly, right? The bliss wears off, and there's no discipline after that, right? You're not showing up for it every single day. You're not trying to learn as much as you want to do every day, again, because the idea of it is coming, maybe it can be brought down just a little bit. Not even a little bit. The idea of it can come crashing down, right? And it's just like, okay, this is really what it is, right? This is all that it takes to even get to here, right? So all of a sudden, like, I'm not really, feeling like I want to do this. Your motivation stops, right? And after your motivation stops, you can only really rely on your discipline. And if you have no discipline, then you're going to wear out. Moving on to stage 3, okay? Stage 3 is more of this pioneer phase, right? It's where you're leading people. It's more like you're leading people. Leading yourself, you're becoming a strong leader. How do you get here? Well, from stage 2, you have to analyze and correct over and over, right? Because remember, you're going through a lot of trials and errors, right? So if you're analyzing what you're doing and then correcting those errors, then you'll be able to get to the point where you can lead, okay? Because you got better, and 2, you kind of accept the responsibility. Not even kind of, you did accept responsibility, and therefore it pays off over time, okay? So now, when you're pioneering, right, you're more in a pioneer phase, how does it look, right? You're doing a visible works of service, right? And it's in and out the classroom, okay? So, bringing it back to football, I know there's people that wouldn't practice outside of practice, right? Say you're doing a sport, right? Do you just practice and practice, or do you practice outside of practice, okay? Even when practice is done, do you do extra stuff? When you leave the field, right, do you go home and study the field? Doing that sort of stuff at this stage, right? Because you want a 360 view. You're putting everything, really, I want you to realize the more committed you are, the more you're putting things into the light. You're shining light on a lot more things in order for it to be fixed, corrected, and made right. Okay? Now, what more does the stage look like? Transformation, right? You're having a more of a transformation in your heart, right? Your heart, how you're feeling, okay? Which leads against to how you're thinking, okay? And then, therefore, as a man thinketh, so is he, okay? So now your actions are taken forth. So, say like this. You want to become a better man, right? Or you want to be becoming a Christ-centered man, right? You're, learning more about this stuff, and you're taking more actions to become said more Christ-centered man. And your heart changes, okay? Now, right, as your heart changes, it flows to your thoughts. Now you're thinking differently, okay? You're going about situations more differently. You're not reacting the same way you used to because your same line of thinking isn't there. You don't feel the same way toward that situation. Therefore, your thoughts are different, right? You're thinking along different sets of line. When you become more mature, you're thinking along different sets of line, right? And then from there, as you're thinking, you're doing different actions, okay? So now, Christ-centered man as an example, you're probably praying more, fasting more, getting in a relationship with him more, maybe attending church. Again, everyone has their own journey, but you're changing your thoughts toward women, how you see, how you view, how your reality is shaped. You understand? Really, what this really looks like, you're developing a lot more leadership qualities and expertise and wisdom in this sector. And when I say wisdom and expertise, I want you to understand that this is gotten here by doing, right? Not just conceptualizing, but by doing, okay? Because some people can speak in a conceptual manner, right? And thinking that they know it all, when it's really not. You kind of speak with no experience, you're speaking with all theoreticals, right? And I mean, I promise you, I used to be in this stage so much. What are the dangers of this stage, okay? So, this is really where you can actually become really irresponsible with the power that you have, right? You know, people are starting to look up to you. People are starting to, you know, believe in you, what you're saying, because, you know, you're actually walking the walk. You're walking with a little bit more confidence. You know, you're leading people. You're speaking with word, like, affirmity, right? You're speaking with purpose. And so that, psychologically, people are going to tune into that, right? Now, you can become irresponsible with this power and mislead them, right? You can serve yourself or serve something, you know, wild. But from there, I promise you, the whole thing will corrupt eventually. As all things do, evil always corrupts. And then when I say it corrupts badly in the fact of it becomes tainted no more. Whatever the venture is or whatever you're leading, you know, whatever you're doing, it becomes tainted, right? Because it's being corrupted by something else. It's not in its purest form. And then it corrupts you too as well. And then the other danger of this is, again, it's always a danger, is the arrogance of the better, right? And from this stage, right, when you're being able to lead, you're seeing success and stuff like that, this is sometimes where people are less willing to change, right? And it's less willing to change as in like, oh, try this new thing, right? But this has been working this whole time, okay? And I'm not saying advocating that you should always change or nothing, right? It's just the fact that people become less willing to try new things or advance their scope to understand more about the said region of pursuit or whatever you're attacking, okay? Someone is making music. I've seen this, I think, with Christian rappers, right? Where someone, you know, they're making music, right? And it's for a betterment of someone else. Mind you, some people, they stop serving themselves and start serving the people with their music, which is really beautiful when they serve them good food. But they're less, but I've seen people who have, you know, good flows, good all this, right? But they're less willing to adapt to, I guess, a better sense of music. So this is happening right now in the music industry, right? Where people are, you know, some artists are less willing to adapt to a better sense of music, right? Where it's like, oh, you know, people, I think D1 speaks about this, right? Where there's people that are, you know, not willing to adapt to the new movement that's being seen, right? Where we're promoting good stuff, you know, we're promoting better, you know, healthier things into our communities, right? Instead of, you know, continue to project the murder, drugs, guns, killing, you know, prostitution and all that sort of stuff. Some artists are less willing to adapt to this sort of norm, especially even new coming artists too. They just want to keep projecting these sort of things into the world. If you're less willing to adapt, that can also come with an irresponsibility of the power, right? Therefore, everything corrupts. Now, when you think you might have reached the end, we actually have 2 more stages, okay? Now, these stages, I believe, are the most important, the most critical ones, the most ones you have to really take apart, dissect, and really analyze someone who is at these stages. And really, it's not even the second one I'm going to be speaking about, but it's this first one, right? And it's stage 4, right? And it's more so, it's the obsession stage, right? And you ever met someone who's been obsessed, right? All they can think about is just doing the action, the goal, mission, you know, someone who is obsessed about it. There's even a quote, it says, obsession is going to beat talent every time. And, you know, that is true. Yes, that obsession can beat talent. But I believe obsession can also be outpowered by someone else. Outpowered by something else. But this stage, I find, it's one that it gets more off the scale. It's no longer on the scale. Remember, we're talking about commitment here. We're talking about being committed, okay? But this stage, right? It's off the traditional scale. You know, I don't think it really it can kind of live a little bit off the scale. And this stage can be activated. I believe it's activated through primarily motion, and it can also be activated probably from the jump of something, right? But basically, the simplest way to say it is really just purpose-driven action, right? It's for a purpose or a goal. And, you know, usually within a stage, you start, I think, there's qualities of narcissism, egomaniac, and psychotic. You know, these qualities start to emerge a little bit for someone who's in this stage, right? When it's just go, driven. All they do is this. You know, and I'm not saying these things are bad things. These things, I wouldn't say they can be bad things if it's for the wrong purpose, right? But you just start to see more of this stuff where it's just such a crazy obsession that, you know, there's no other lifestyle beyond this point where of just them just doing toward this sort of goal, right? And I wouldn't even call these dangers, but these are more so cautions, right, toward being in this stage, right? If you find yourself in this stage, understand that your morals are going to be questioned, right? Your morals and your mental is going to be questioned, right? Is this right or wrong, right? And from here, it is a tipping or turning point into how you kind of proceed into something, right? So your morals are at questions, right? So this leads into a tipping or turning point. It's kind of a split pathways where you're either turning and pursuing with better, bigger and better, with the morals in question, with the guidelines and circumstances, and it's usually typically the harder way. With everything kind of set in place to make sure this is guided, it's going to maybe take a little bit longer, but understand that, you know, you're doing it right. And then from another one where it's like all rules are at the table, it doesn't really matter what here's goes, you know, everything's a casualty of war. They start saying, I've heard someone say, ain't no one did nothing really ethical to get rich and something like that. But it's just qualities like that. You start hearing things like that, they go down this path, right? But understand, during this obsessive stage, right, the quit factor of the original goal is really high, right? And for instance, let me just put this example, right? Say like a billionaire, right? You want to be a billionaire, okay? And you get to this stage, right? You're learning more and more, you're doing more and more, and then you realize what it takes to even become a millionaire, make money, do all this stuff, what it takes to build a company, build teams, build all this, right? And it's like, damn, motherfucker, this shit hard as fuck. You start saying things like, it's not even that worth it, right? Man, I could just do this, right? You know, I don't want to pursue this no more because of this, right? You probably see something that's going to scar you just for a little, irk you or get on your skin, and it makes you turn away from whatever it is, right? And this, again, we'll bring it back, goes to the tipping or turning point, right? So you kind of turn down whatever it is you're pursuing, let it go, and never live it again, or you kind of see it through, right? It can go good or bad, right? Because if you continue along the right path and be like, nah, I can still do this, but I'm gonna do it right, you know, understand that the original goal, it may not be hit, but you can still hope for the best, but understand that you're doing it right at the same time, right? And then for the other side, it's more so, okay, whatever it takes, you know, less moral, less things attached. Now we're going to get into our last stage, which is called lifestyle. And this is the most blissful stage ever. And so this is the final stage. And I love this stage because there's two parts to this stage, right? There's people that go through all the stages and end up here. And then for some people, you know, they can start here. But before I explain that, let's get into it. Right, so what is it like to live in the stage? You're living with your full inner duty and your purpose without temp, right? And so usually you can really get to the stage by passing. Remember, you can get to the stage by passing through all the stages, including obsession, right? So when you get here, you know, you realize you're doing it the right way. You're living in this without temp, right? Or you can kind of start here too, but I'll get into that later. Usually, you know, you're at peace with yourself, you know, pure confidence in the way things are going and the way how you're doing them. And then you're just confident as to your reality being set clear and set true, right? There's nothing that can really come and attack your inner matrix, right? That's basically stage 5. You're just living in it. You're out here doing the things. What does it look like? Say, you know, even me as an entrepreneur, right? I'm an entrepreneur. You know, video maker, content creator, whatever. I'm all these things, right? But really, you know, whether this video gets 100 million views or this, it's still me making the video, right? whether I'm making $0 or $1 billion, right? I'm still going to be making this video. I live this way. So I do. All I do is, create content, let people know what it is about me, and continue doing what I'm doing, right? To help build the life I want to live. That's my lifestyle, building the life I want to live, right? And so when you're at this stage, I want you really to understand two things, right? If you pass through all your stages, you finally come to understanding that you're going to die on this hill, right? Whether I make no money or whether I end up being some sort of, I want to say some sort of, but if I like to say when I reach a high substantial amount of wealth, I won't put no numbers on it because that's up to God. Whether that I'm gonna die in this hill, whether I'm doing what I'm doing, I'm not gonna change what I'm doing because of temptation of something else, right? I'm gonna continue doing what I'm doing, stay firm in what I'm doing, right? But on the other side, for those people who kind of started here, right, you were kind of given a lifestyle, and you're living with some sort of purpose that you thought up or that was given to you or fed to you, whatever. And you're at peace with it, you're like, oh, everything's so good, right? But then something comes and attacks that matrix that makes you think something different, right? I also do want you to understand that sometimes it's the only thing you know, which is a lifestyle that's been given to you. You never had the chance to ask the questions as to, was this your lifestyle? Or was it one given to you? That's all, folks. That's the stages of commitment. From basically just asking questions around it, to being able to design a life around it, be able to lead a life around it, and then obsessing over it to make it better, great. My stuff's kicking up. And then to the point where, you're truly just living in it, and I believe this is the best stage. Stage 5 is the best stage, Obsession can be good, but it's not great. Lifestyle's great. But again, stay tuned for the next one, and there's not really much to it, man. Let's build our lives, let's build our dream lives, build a life you never want to wake up to. Have a good one.